Hi, I'm Brady. This is Brady's Corner. Thank you for joining today. Every 15 minutes, we're going to bring you a new business leader. We're going to talk about whatever they want to talk about, from their challenges and successes and their journey, where they are today and the things that are near and dear to them. Today, we have a very special guest, Tania Gitch. She is a CPA and partner at Geffen in Portland, Oregon. And she is also the first female partner at the firm. She's also a director of taxation there, heavily involved in their professional services group, as well as high net worth individuals. Welcome, Tania.
Thanks, Brady. It's great to kick off the new year with you.
You as well. And I know you're having a little bit of weather up there in Portland and Oregon in general. So just hope you all have a safe time up there with the freezing rain and whatnot. So.
Yeah, it is winter. It's nice that, here in Portland, we have the 4 seasons, which is what I love about this area. So we'll take it.
It is pretty. And you guys have phenomenal trees. We have no trees in Las Vegas. So, well, thank you so much, Tania. And, really wanted, you to be able to introduce yourself a little bit and, share with us your I guess, a journey into accounting, your journey to a CPA, your journey to Geffen and where you are now, and some of the things that are near and dear to you.
Sure. Well, yeah, I joined Geffen as the first female shareholder in 2013, which doesn't seem that long ago, but to some, that's already a career ago. Yeah, and as you said, now I'm fortunate enough to lead our tax group, which makes up about 80 people out of 150 in the firm, and I'm really proud of that group. Having spent my entire professional career in Portland, I was really thrilled about the opportunity to join the firm back in 2013. Geffen Portland roots go back to 1933, I think it is, when founded by Henry Blauer and then became Blauer, Geffen, and Mesher in the 1960s. And both Stan Geffen and Bob Mesher are now in their mid-80s and still active in the firm, which we're very, very fortunate to have them as mentors. At least I feel that way. The firm is very deeply rooted in Portland business community, having served the same businesses and families for generations. Which is, partly what attracted me to the firm, as well as that I really value the relationships that I have with clients, and you feel that throughout the leadership within our firm. And you ask the business community in Portland, and they recognize that as well. So it's something I'm really proud of, and I'm thankful to have made that move.
Yeah, and everything that you mentioned, based on everything I know of the leadership there, certainly echoes everything you just said. You touched on something. You're the first female partner there at Geffen, and wanted to touch on that a little bit. I think the figures from accounting today are that roughly 25% of owners and CPA firms are women, whereas about 62% of all CPAs are women. And from what I understand, that ratio has been pretty consistent for a while. And do you care to touch on that?
Yeah, I know you've done your homework, and it's true. Unfortunately, that statistic has not changed much. But I think, there's progress being made within the industry. I think there's a lot of awareness going on. When I joined the firm in 2013, the firm had actually already kicked off what we call a Women's Leadership Initiative. And through that initiative, we've put together programs specifically, with the goal in mind of, helping our female professionals grow in their career. Because what you see in the industry is that you have, young female professionals coming right out of school typically. And then it's usually, kind of at that 5-year mark, just before they're being promoted to manager, that you see a lot of just kind of the numbers just fall off the cliff, because it's about that time when we have these young female professionals who are looking to, start a family, and they're feeling pulled between, obligations at home and obligations, at the firm. And so we recognize that something, we need to do something in order to keep these female professionals in public accounting and help them feel successful. So,
can you talk about some of those programs a little bit of what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I mentioned the leadership development program, which is like a mentoring program where it is by application. So our female professionals apply to participate in this program. It covers a full 2 years. You're working directly with a mentor, which is one of the shareholders in the firm. And then we also have an outside consultant coach who works directly with the mentees, helping them put together their goals. And then we meet on a regular basis, typically once a month over the 2-year period, where like myself as a mentor meet with my mentee, and we just keep them on track with their goals. And they're both personal and professional goals, right? Because the whole idea is that we're trying to figure out how do we make the two work together so that people feel as though they can continue in their career.
Oh, I was thinking about something else you've said in the past about mentorship and how important that's been for you. And I forgot, I think you've had a couple mentors there, but I think you mentioned one in particular that started, that pulled you along to networking events. And you want to like talk about kind of your personal growth, and professional growth at the firm, and the things you think were very instrumental in that?
Sure. Well, I actually, I started my career in Portland at another firm in downtown, and stayed there for about 5 years, and then went to Nike for a while, but quickly learned that public accounting is where my heart was at. And I went back to that firm that I started at. And, I was really fortunate in that firm. I had, 2 mentors who were both senior partners. And one, very early on in my career, I just started, built a relationship with him and was very curious about the business and asked lots of questions. And so he really took me under his wing, which, I have to give him so much credit for, because at that time, it was a sizable firm, and I was just maybe a second-year staff accountant. But he took an interest. And he was the one who started inviting me to these, local networking events that would never have been on my radar. And I remember so, vividly going to, I think it was the MAC Club, where many of these events would be held, which is the Loma Athletic Club here in Portland. And I'd walk into, typically it's a ballroom, right, where these networking events would be held. And there would be kind of the sea of maybe 50 to 100 people. And I'd be one of maybe 5 women. And the rest are, at that time, I thought, we're middle-aged, old men who are probably younger than I am now. But at the time, it didn't faze me, because I just didn't see myself any different from them. And I'm sure the first time I attended, I was probably absolutely scared to death. And I'm sure I probably didn't speak much at all. But what was so great is my mentor, John, he didn't have that expectation of me. He just, led me around and introduced me to his old friends and colleagues. And many of those people I know still today. And I know, many of them have kind of helped me along in my career and helped me build my network and build my brand. But if it wasn't for that mentor, it would have been a rougher road. So that's one thing, I recommend highly to whether, they're female professionals or male young professionals, is you've got to make those connections and be curious and build the relationships, because they'll be everlasting.
And now, so that brings up something that's really interesting. So I was talking to Cheryl Osborne this week, and she mentioned that she didn't really attend. She's a founder and president of a construction company in Southern California. And she mentioned that, and she has kids the same age as us, Tania, in the early 20s. And so when, she has, kids, and she didn't feel comfortable, I think, going to some of the networking events with the kids at home and whatnot, and just really started doing that more as they got into high school and whatnot. And we talked a little bit about different phases and I know you and I have talked about people being in different phases of their life and whatnot. So I'm curious if you have any advice for folks with kids at home, men or women, and, getting out and mixing it up and networking in order to help build your brand, to start a brand, to build your brand and grow.
Yeah, well, I think fortunately that's one thing that has started to change a bit. It seems like, and maybe there still is to some extent, where those networking events are either, very early in the morning or they're in the evening. And so, right, if you have children at home and have those obligations, that kind of leaves you out. And so that's one thing that we have, done at Geffen Mesher and with our Women's Leadership Initiative, is sort of create these social opportunities, networking opportunities that happen during regular work hours, to give our female professionals that opportunity to network more. So we're typically, working alongside with maybe another, large law firm in town. And, we do a lot of work in the A&E space. So it might be working, putting together an event where we're inviting women from, those clients, or with, a bank or a, wealth management group, so that, their women and our women have an opportunity to get to network together. And it doesn't have to be, before or after regular work hours, so that, it works.
That's fantastic advice. And let me ask you on your, as in your growth and your journey, so you got out there and mixed it up with the MAC Club. Would you suggest, a CPA group or industry group or all of the above? Just really, how do you suggest getting out and getting started to build your brand?
You're right. There are a lot of those opportunities, but I really believe in the power of that, really making a connection with a small group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's really how I started, was, right, even though I, was able to go to some of these networking activities, there was a lot that I had to miss out on. And so what I did was, it was making those, having those lunch meetings with a small group of people who I really built a strong community with. And then, we would just build off of each other, right? It's like, okay, making sure that this group of, there was about 5 or 6 of us, I can think of, earlier in my career, maybe when I was a manager, who then we, made that concerted effort to then provide each other referrals and make connections, because we had a lot of confidence in one another. And so I think that works as well, right? It doesn't have to be going to all the big networking events. It's just finding that community and fostering it, and having some consistency with it as well. I think that's I think about the two of us, I think we just, continue to foster that relationship. And I have a lot of confidence in you and your team. And that's why, it's easy to talk to clients about Brayn and to just send them your way, rather than, I think, the shotgun approach, right?
Right. No, that's fantastic advice. I often say, one-on-one lunches and coffees and, drinks and whatnot are just invaluable. Just, sometimes just build those individual relationships, because that's what it's about. Let's dip into talent. Okay. One of the things you mentioned is around the 5-year mark on women, they tend to start families and whatnot, and maybe might take some time off from the workplace. What are, and I know we've talked about this before, but what are you currently doing, and what advice would you have for other professional service firms in attracting and retaining women to, in the workplace, in addition to, promoting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a long time now, we've had customized work arrangements. So, before everybody was remote, that may have meant working from home, 2 to 3 days a week, working a reduced schedule. So I think we were already, well positioned for our team to work remotely. And so that was an easy transition. And you're right. So now I'm starting to see, this transition of our team members being at home, having to teach at home. And so honoring that flexibility that they may need, where not everybody's working 9 to 5 anymore, right? So some people start their day very early, some people work later in the evening. But what's most important is that they're getting the job done and meeting the client service needs that we have that for us are very deadline driven. And I think that takes trust in your employees, and it takes a lot of communication, right? But definitely, I've been doing a lot of interviewing over the last couple months, especially as we build up going into our tax season. And I'm interviewing people, all across the country, a lot from Texas and Florida, New York, California. So, and I'm just hearing, I'm listening to what it is they're looking for in a firm. Why are they making a change? Everybody talks about culture, but it's, okay, how, are you really honoring the culture that you're advertising? And I think with that comes that trust. There's accountability too, right? So it's trust on both sides and holding one another accountable and just, showing that, yeah, I am fully responsible and I can get the work done. It doesn't matter that maybe, I take 3 hours out of the middle of the day because I need to do something with my children. That's okay. Or, have other respond. Maybe I need to go for a walk, right?
Right.
I think our health is so critical right now. And mental health is so important. And hopefully, we see that continue to be as a trend. It should have been a concern from the beginning, but this is all highlighted how important it is.
Can you talk about, you mentioned attracting folks and talking to folks from other states, states like California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle are typically a little bit higher cost of labor areas, and even Manhattan, you may be talking to people out of, New York as well. How are y'all mixing in, the different cost and, versus, pay rates that we might see in Portland and Phoenix that are, probably very similar as compared to these other coastal cities?
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. This is a new challenge for all of us, right? Who have remote employees. And I think, we're in the infancy of trying to figure this out. What I have found so far is that we've been able to, continue to be competitive, even though we're working off of, what at one time was the Portland market. I don't know what the market is anymore. How do you define the market? That's something we need to work out. But just yesterday, I spent quite a bit of time speaking with a candidate we have who lives in Southern California, works with one of the big 4 CPA firms, and she's a senior manager. And our compensation we're finding is actually, it is lower than what she has right now because of that Southern California market. But that's not what's important to her. It's a factor, but we're finding that's not what's driving many of these decisions.
Are you finding people wanting to move to Portland and in the area and Oregon from other cities?
No, pre-pandemic that was the case, but not any longer. Yeah, I don't know. I read an article, I think it was just yesterday, that showed the map of the U.S. and kind of what the population increase, decrease was with the, it was trying to show the mobility, within the country and where the concentration of that mobility is. And it looked as though, most people were moving into Idaho. I think Idaho may have been number 1. I think, Montana was in there. Nevada, of course, was in there as I think in the top 5. But unfortunately, Washington and Oregon, we're seeing, people leave for many different reasons.
Right, right. Let me ask you to pull out your crystal ball and talk about the Build Back Better Act, and wanted to get your thoughts on that and what you think, now that Manchin is potentially back at the table, what this new refined bill may look like, and what we should maybe be anticipating going forward.
Sure. I felt like I would have had a better answer for you a few days ago, but yeah.
Every day it changes, I know.
Right? Yeah. There isn't a lot of focus by the lawmakers on this right at the moment. I think they're focused on voting rights. So, the longer this goes on, it feels as though some of the passion that was in, some of the provisions of the act is diminishing a bit. It caused a lot of, I think, heartache with planning at the end of 2021. Maybe, some of your viewers will have felt it, but, people were trying to figure out if they should get deals closed in the last quarter. And as we saw this be delayed, that sense of urgency, went away a bit. But I think at this point, a lot of the hype has died down some. There are some major provisions in there that will impact our clients significantly. But I think at this point, I'm hesitant to lock on to anything that I am aware of in the current version that's with the Senate, just because this keeps getting delayed. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, do you think, I guess there's an opportunity they try to redo something similar, or maybe they slim it down with extenders and bare basics, along with maybe some Voting Rights Act, something along there, or?
Yeah, I don't know if, for those who aren't familiar with what typically happens at the end of the year before, Congress goes on holiday break, or is that they usually try to pass all these what we call extenders. So parts of the tax act or tax law that, have sunsets where they expire. So we had a lot of provisions that expired on December 31st that typically Congress would have either extended those or, addressed them as just letting them expire. And that didn't happen. So all of those, we have a lot of provisions in the tax act or tax law that did they just let go at the end of December. And so I think there are, as we go into planning for 2022, we're going to need some further guidance and clarity. But, the conversation with clients always ends up being, well, here's what we know the law is today. Here's what we think, potentially could change. And we run both scenarios and, have a conversation so that, our clients can make an educated decision, and we just stay on top of it, one day at a time, and see,
Right.
what we think is likely to be passed. But
Yeah, that's great advice. Having good quality conversations with your CPA is more important now than ever. And then finally, we're still in January, only 6 days into it. What resolutions do you have for the year?
Just like many, I think I'm going to try to be focused on my health. It's my health, and being physically active is always something that's been really important to me. But I'll admit, the last 2 years, I think I've let myself work more than is healthy. And so I am committed to this summer. I live in the Columbia River Gorge, and I'm going to get out there and kite surf as much as I possibly can. My husband reminds me I have to stay healthy so that I can take care of others, knowing that's my core, and that's what I work for. It's my value, is to be able to take care of others. So that's incentive for me to personally stay healthy, to take care of others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you work out as well. You do CrossFit, and you said bench press is your favorite, right?
Yeah. You're going to make me blush now, Brady. Yes, weight training has always been something that is really important and fun to me, which, it seems kind of funny because I'm a, 5 foot tall, petite woman, but it goes back to high school, and was able to compete in a weightlifting group we had with the high school. And That was a big thing where I lived, and that just, it carried on. And I think, I participated in a lot of sports, and I use, as I imagine you do too, I use what I learned playing sports in high school and college to, in what I do every day and leading the teams.
I love it. I love it. There's so many times I quote old coaches to the team. For my resolution, I'm putting a gym in my garage, and I started a meal prep. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll keep it going throughout the year. So I still have to put the equipment together. So that'll be.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's what we did this summer. Is we built a weight room. Lots of bands as well. So free weights, bands. I could give you, plenty of ideas there.
Well, I'll definitely be calling you on that. So Tania, thank you so much for your time today. I know everybody's going to love this. And it really is, I think, so timely, on helping, women progress in the workplace and, learn how to, network and, seek out mentorship. I think that's huge. And also, I think this does reflect on, the mentors out there, the future mentors, call one of your employees and take them out to a networking event with you, engage with the employees. I think that's huge. And at some point, somebody did that for you, right? And so I think a lot of us could be doing the same thing if we hope to get future Tania Gitches out there. So no, I appreciate it. This is great. Is there any other things that you want to mention before we jump off, or last advice for young professionals looking to learn and progress in the workplace?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, don't be too hard on yourself and be curious, right? And just build those relationships so that you can start to build your brand. But you have to take that first step forward, and sometimes it takes being bold. We were talking about things we learned from sports, and one thing I learned from my high school basketball coach is the superwoman pose, which maybe you haven't heard of, but I think it helps a lot of professional women. They may be familiar with it, but you stand in front of the mirror in a superwoman pose before you go out on the court. And I've used that plenty of times when I'm going into difficult meetings or into, in a place where I'm uncomfortable. So try the superwoman pose.
I love it. I think it's fantastic.
It works.
I've heard that, like they just call it like the superhero, put your hands on your hips. And yeah, I think it's great.
Okay, great.
I do it. So I guess I do the superwoman pose as well, Superman pose. So
I'll call it the Superman pose.
Well, hey, thank you so much, Tania. I think that's great advice. I love it. Bold, being bold, fortune favors the bold. And on that note, I do want to thank you everyone for joining Brady's Corner today. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to reach out to Tania, let us know. We'll have her contact information so you can reach out to her. And thank you so much.